You're probably wondering if you want to join in on that fun that is hardcore World of Warcraft, but a little nervous over the aspect that it is a one-life world out there. But don't be discouraged, because if you treat it like your actual life, you may learn a thing or two about yourself. With this overall guide, I hope to get as many people as far as possible in leveling and attain the coveted level 60 award. This is Taco's Declassified Hardcore WoW Survival Guide. This will become the most important decision you will have to make in this game mode, as in order to get to max level, it will require an immense amount of time and effort, along with skill and even luck. So picking your first character is crucial. Are you going to go with the most survivability and pick a class that can do almost everything, or are you willing to forego a bit of that survival for more damage output? Take some time to read over the different racial abilities, as some of them may be very beneficial to your class or playstyle. As a mage, you could utilize the human racial and have 5% more spirit, and as a mage, especially in the early game, will go very often. But having 5% more spirit, your downtime will be cut significantly. One I really enjoy using as well is the Tauren racial War Stomp, having an extra stun to either stop a cast or escape from multiple enemies. Patrols can be no joke, so a fast stun and run can save your life. All in all, just read up on each of the racials, classes, and maybe even spend an hour in the first starting zone to see if this is the kind of class you want to progress forward with. Once you really get going with your main character, it's going to be like life. Now that you've figured out what character you want or are still deciding and popping into your toon to test it out, there are a few tips to use while starting out that will allow you to maximize your potential in the early game and allow you to at least get to the second dungeon available for your toon, roughly around level 20. The first of these tips is to watch carefully for caves and mines. These places are where the most hyper respawning will happen. These mobs have a tendency to respawn within seconds of being killed. So as you start to fight a mob slightly farther in, your back is now blocked off. Luckily, a fair amount of players are around, but there are still plenty of opportunities for multiple mobs to come attack you at once. With a lot of early level characters, you don't have a ton of chances to really do some damage on multiple targets. You may end up freaking out and running away, but because of the hyper spawning, you are running into more mobs. Fargo Deep Mine is the perfect example of this occurring, as the mine is littered with corpses of players lower than level 8. Another good tip is to watch the levels of the mobs you are fighting or the quests you are attempting. Going beyond your level or ability is a risky task to take. A lot of players will stay within their level or below. As long as the mob is green, you will get XP. The orange mobs garner a higher level of risk that the experience may not be worth. One wrong step and a few mobs are on you. Chunk, dazed, chunk, and dead, even at the same level as the mob. Having some professions can help you out significantly in clearing these areas out well. Alchemy and herbalism allow you to create pots for days, and they give you enough to basically create an item out of your buffs with the stats acquired. The thing with herbalism as well is any extra herbs you have can be sold for a decent profit in order to get spells, bags, or save for your mount. Grab yourself first aid, even if you can heal yourself, as well as cooking, and make sure you keep up with leveling them. Having an extra heal is nice, and the stat gains from eating good food is just another buff to your character that can you really afford to not have? Well, that would be up to you to really decide. All I will say is that it is beneficial to do and will make your run that much easier to accomplish. Gets a bit annoying to have to rebuff the food every 15 minutes, but it's not as bad as paladin buffing. Fishing is also another good one, but it's not quite as important as the other two since you can get food off animals with their meat. And that's all you really need, so, screw fishing. Snore. If you grab a profession that allows you to make gear, I feel that doesn't last very long, as they seem to be the best early game in order to get some green quality gear, which kind of gives you a leg up early. I would say after 75 skill points or so in those professions is when you can switch off for something more beneficial like alchemy or engineering. The alchemy buffs are great all around with having 5+ pots going at once. And for engineering, you can get that training dummy, which is just greatly beneficial for survival. For the most part, it is entirely up to you, but you should have something and level it, or you can put yourself at quite a disadvantage. Though you need to have enough bag slots to hold it all. Since that is the case, you will have to manage your inventory quite well. Yes, you will have to run back and sell your junk often, or you are selectively deleting the least valuable item. A very useful tip is to grab an early game bag if you haven't been very lucky with your drops. 6-slot bags have a chance to drop, but if you can't quite get them, then buying one for 5 silver is helpful. The extra slots will keep you going that much more, so needing to find a vendor or deleting potential monies goes down significantly. And that will bring us to my final point in this section, and that would be budget, budget, budget. One of the worst situations is going to get new spells or needing new mats for your professions and you have no gold. That is why we say to select your spells well after level 15, as they will start to add up enough to use all your gold and beyond. Since there's no trading allowed, you will have to make do with all that you find.
Okay, and one of my mods traded me the bags, and I was like, that sounds nice, because I fucking hate low bag space so much. Alright, if you want me to delete my character because of that, okay. Alright, he traded me the bags. One of my mods was like, yeah, because we were talking in Discord, I was farming, so I was like, bro, I have no bag space ever at this level, I hate this shit. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was like, alright, and he was like, yeah, I'll just trade you bags. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I said okay. I shouldn't have said okay. It's against the rules of the hardcore add-on. I don't think it'll be against the rules in official hardcore. It's just bags. I did not trade myself any gold or anything like that. It's just bag space. I hate having low bag space. It's really, I just hate that shit.
Well, now that you've settled yourself in and hopefully haven't died before level 12, as that's pretty much when you're going to part ways with the starting areas and explore the more aggressive parts of the world. So your choice becomes which area you'd like to try out. Each has their own little struggles to do with. Barrens is filled with people all over, so any named mob is a free-for-all shitfest. In Silverpine Forest, you have to keep an adamant eye around for a possible son of Arugal that could come popping out of the depths. If you get caught, you will die. His dot is no joke. Hell, even Westfall is filled with camps of mobs that you have no chance of fighting altogether. These zones are what's going to test your mettle the most. The first 20 levels may be the hardest part it takes to getting into the rhythm of your class, plus lacking in gear with stat points. The biggest tip to give while leveling is to watch your back as much as possible and don't pull more than you can handle. Essentially, keep spinning the camera around for patrols and attack 1 to 2 enemies at a time. If you do decide to attack more than you can handle, running is a great option. Just make sure you stop attacking the enemy with basics. That is what's called leashing. If you basic, it will extend the length the enemy will chase you. Griefers will do this and bring some elite mobs to town or rando people to get them killed. But regular hardcore players can use this to their own benefit and kite enemies around in order to get the kill effectively. So at this point, you are getting up there in levels and wondering if you could take on a dungeon perhaps. Yes, it will be a bit risky, but that risk can provide a high return of values in terms of green gear, or blue gear. The bosses themselves have a few solid pieces, and the quests will definitely give you a big boost in stats and experience. For the Horde, you will be going through RFC, or Ragefire Chasm. This place isn't crazy as long as you don't overpull. The one enemy that kills most players in this dungeon though is the lava. People get a little too wild and jump around and right into the lava pools. And let's just say, if you hit those lava pools, it's gonna be a KO. For the Alliance, you will most likely be tackling Wailing Caverns first, or waiting until Dead Mines is available. Alliance get a little shafted in getting into a dungeon early. Also, both dungeons are in caves, the most dangerous place in a hardcore run. Be mindful of corners, watch your aggro, and mana of the party. If you don't take on too many mobs, it should be an easy time if you keep these few things in mind. These tips will help keep you alive and get you to level 60. Tip 1. Buying 2 cheap bags early. It's a great way to have enough space to sell almost everything you get, instead of deleting items or keeping mats around. Tip 2. Pull within your means. Depending on your class and level, you may only be able to pull 1 mob at a time. Don't worry because most won't pull more than 2 before level 20. For elites, you may want to be a few levels above. Even being at the same level is very risky. Choose a spec and stick with it. Buy spells in that spec only. This is important because it will allow you to save gold for your mount by not getting every spell available when you level. If there are certain support spells, get those, even if they aren't in your spec, if you find them to be quite viable. Pick a profession and stick with it too. You will devote a decent amount of time to these as well, and they are well worth it. Just be sure of your choice as it can set you back on gold if you decide to switch. Learning to flee. There's a certain tactic to learn if you want to avoid getting dazed. This is a debuff that slows you if you have been hit from behind. It's not guaranteed, but to avoid it altogether, will always let you escape. Tip 6. Use your whole kit. Don't be afraid to use some cooldowns on mobs to make sure you live. Tip 7. Escort quests are a trap. Don't take escort quests. They offer little reward and a very high risk factor. Check vendor for gear and mats. A vendor will refresh their goods every 30 minutes and you will be able to find solid pieces of gear for cheap or mats. Tip 9. Avoiding caves is preferable. Lots of caves have hyper spawning, so entering becomes a risk factor the higher up you go. Tip 10. Be aware. Always be aware of your surroundings, as you never know when a patrol could come by and kill you, or a griefer. So if you AFK, the best option is to fully log out first. With all these tips and situations you've seen throughout the video, I hope it makes your experience that much better. The fun in it all isn't just surviving, but the life aspect of it all. Make sure you have food and water, getting a job or two, and healing yourself from wounds and injuries. Progressing forward and finding out some new ways to make yourself better at the game overall. Well, I hope you all have a good journey ahead of you and stay alive as long as possible. Take care, folks. Taco out.